Hello, my name is Kirsty and welcome to Upside Down Books. Today is Father's Day in Australia and I thought that I would celebrate the day by making a quick short list of some of my favourite fictional fathers. Having looked through some of the books that I have read, I've actually discovered that there are quite a few fictional fathers that I'm really fond of. That was a lot of F's. So today we're just going to have a quick look at my top 6 with a couple of honorary mentions, but we're going to keep this short and sweet, so we're going to dive straight into it. First on my list is Hans Hubermann from The Book Thief. Now Hans is obviously not Liesel's actual father, he's more of an adoptive father in this story, but he's absolutely beautiful. He's probably one of my favourite fathers in literature, just for the way that he is so accepting of Liesel and just so wonderful in the way that he makes her feel at home and the lengths to which he's willing to go to do that for her. He's such a fantastic character. Honestly, if it weren't for Hans, this book wouldn't have been anywhere near as good as it was, so I recommend reading this one just to experience the beautiful fatherly figure that is Hans Hubermann. The next father that I have to talk about is Joshua Connor from The Water Diviner, though this is a lesser read story and it is about Gallipoli, which is one of the big fights that the Australian and New Zealand corps were involved with. Whilst I was making this list and trying to think of some of the fatherly figures that I thought were really strong and inspiring, Joshua came to mind. This is literally about Joshua travelling to Turkey from Australia to try and find out what happened to his 3 sons because none of them returned home from the war, but they're also not confirmed dead. It's absolutely a beautiful and heartbreaking story of him trying to bring them home, or at least just get some closure. I think the lengths that Joshua goes to in this story are just such a great example of how much our fathers love us, and he's just such a good father figure. I really love it. This is such a beautiful story about family. The next character I have to talk about is Dr. Covey from To All the Boys I've Loved Before. This is obviously Lara Genes' father, who's the main character in this book, and he is raising those 3 girls by himself and doing such an admirable job. I don't know why, but he's always just stuck out to me as such like a beautiful character who's doing such a good job of his situation. So I think that he definitely deserves to be on this list for the good work that he is doing and keeping these 3 in line. The next character I have for you is Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird. I really love To Kill a Mockingbird. It's one of my favourite all-time books for sure, and I think Atticus is a really interesting and complex character. And he's just such a wonderful father as well, just with the way that he's also coping with his own situation and the complications of his work life and that leaking into his personal life with his young children. It's really beautiful to see those dynamics, and I think he's definitely one of those standout literary fathers. The next one I have for you would have to be Mr. Bennet from Pride and Prejudice. This one you could say is probably quite a commonplace person to have on this sort of list, but Mr. Bennet is such a sweetheart. I don't think there is anyone else on this planet that could have as much patience as Mr. Bennet does. Just from the way that he deals with Mrs. Bennet and her ridiculousness, to the degree to which he loves Lizzie and the way that he supports her, and particularly the moment where he says, "From this day onwards you will have to be a stranger to one of your parents." That was just a great moment. Like that was, I love Mr. Bennet. Mr. Bennet is fantastic, and I think he's a hilarious character. Like, that man needs a medal for something. The next one I have here is actually a book I haven't read myself, but I am very familiar with the story via the TV, and that is Bob Cratchit from A Christmas Carol. We have a really beautiful edition of this, don't you think? It's an illustrated edition, so it's got like super pretty title pages and just small illustrations throughout. Are you jealous? I think you are. I love this story. I love this story so much. I really need to finish reading the entire book. But Bob Cratchit, goodness gracious me, what a sweet man. I think Bob Cratchit also deserves a medal. The amount that he has to give up and, you know, put his children first and his wife first and everything else first so that they can survive is just incredible. He's an amazing figure for putting up with Scrooge being an absolute horrible person to him, and to get food on the table at the end of the day. Bob Cratchit is amazing and just such a sweetheart in this story. Like, we should be talking about Bob Cratchit more. Why doesn't Bob Cratchit come up more often in these lists of things? I think he is applicable to lots of other great lists. I think he's just such an underrated character. Like, I never hear anyone talking about Bob Cratchit, but Bob Cratchit is the best. Like, he wins. He is a fantastic father and well deserving of being on this list. The next one I have for you though would have to be my favourite, and that is going to be Arthur Weasley from the Harry Potter series. There's no one better than Arthur Weasley. Arthur Weasley makes this series for me. I've just been reading the 5th Harry Potter as well, and I just got up to the bit involving the snake bite and my heart was just bleeding for the Weasley family. Arthur Weasley is hands down my favourite fictional father. Like, the way that he copes with having such a ridiculously large family and being so poor, but being happy the whole time and supportive the whole time and just so accepting of Harry, and the way that he just takes him into the family, it's unbelievable. Arthur Weasley is inspirational. Like, goodness me, is there another character out there who is so happy-go-lucky and able to be dealing with so much stress so well as him? I just don't think so. I love Arthur Weasley so much. The whole Weasley family is just like goals. Like, I wish I was a part of the Weasley family. I love them so much. And I have a couple of honorary mentions for you as well. One also comes from Harry Potter, and that has to be Sirius. Like, we've got to give Sirius Black a mention in this list. Celebrating Father's Day, the way that he loves and cares and is a beautiful father figure to Harry is heartwarming and heartbreaking for various reasons that happen in the 5th book. But oh my goodness, Sirius Black deserves a mention for sure. Whilst he is not there for that long in the series, there was so much potential, JK! There was so much potential for there to be more! And my second and final honourable mention for you guys is Mr. Tom from Goodnight Mr. Tom. This book I don't hear enough people talking about. This book is so bloody good. And Mr. Tom is hilarious. I love Mr. Tom because he kind of gets this child foisted upon him during wartime because he lives in the countryside and can afford to be looking after kids escaping from the city. And he's really not that interested in having to look after a child, but eventually both of them sort of grow on each other, and I love the way that that happens. So kudos to him for being a foster father for Willie, because that boy needed him in his life, and as grumpy as Mr. Tom might seem, he's an absolute sweetheart. Right, so those are all my favourite fictional fathers that I wanted to share with you today to celebrate Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, especially mine. You're doing a great job, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!